I don't know if you can hear the demonstrators just below me here on the waterfront. It is difficult to overestimate how much of a big deal this travel ban against the former president and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa actually is. By the way, his unofficial nest egg is estimated to run into the billions. And it certainly feels tonight as if this is the beginning of the end of a dynasty. But I warn you, there are some distressing images in my report. There is so much history being made in Sri Lanka these days. There are the burnt-out buses languishing in the ornamental lake. They're what's left over from Monday's historic explosion of public anger. The buses were used by the ex-Prime Minister's henchmen to ferry in his supporters and break up a peaceful protest using violence. Cue more history. Mahinda Rajapaksa in happier times, for him at least. He has ruled Sri Lanka as either president or prime minister for 15 out of the last 20 years. Today he was slapped with a travel ban for allegedly inciting Monday's violence. Another first. Although his critics and enemies might wonder why he'd never been held to account for this. The massacre of innocent Tamil civilians at the end of the country's brutal civil war when Rajapaksa was president. The UN accuse him of failing to investigate these crimes. But that's not what today's travel ban is for.
I draw my strength from people like Nelson Mandela, where they lost so much.
In his cluttered study, we went to see the courageous lawyer responsible for the travel ban, another piece of history.
The executive has failed, parliament has failed, but in Sri Lanka, the judiciary has triumphed.
So there is a rule of law here.
There is a rule of law. Judiciary seems to be working. Seems to be working. Because now the people are watching. People of this country have very clearly demonstrated that enough is enough.
So a travel ban against Rajapaksa is one thing.
Yes.
Do you think he might be charged as well?
Oh, definitely he has to be charged. I insisted that he be arrested and produced before the learned magistrate. Because it's serious, the charge is so serious. On the 9th, these innocent, peaceful protesters were massacred. And to date, not one of the perpetrators have been brought to court.
So how will this drama unfold? We found the army on standby at the brand new concert hall turned barracks, or patrolling the streets with their armoured vehicles. And the only other traffic during the afternoon curfew is stationary. The never-ending queues for fuel, the most visible symptom of an unprecedented economic crisis that has triggered demands for fundamental change. After nightfall, off to a temple for the Buddhist blessing of the country's new interim Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe, appointed by an embattled president who's refusing to quit office. He was sworn in at precisely 6:32, apparently a propitious time to get his impossible new job. Prime Minister, Matt Fry from British television. You represent a party of one in Parliament. Why do you think you've got the moral mandate to run Sri Lanka at the moment?
Churchill had only 4 members backing him in 1939. How did he become Prime Minister? Because there's a crisis. I have done the same. Learn your history.
But he might have to learn his. This is his 6th term as Prime Minister. He's never managed to complete a single one, the default premier and a safe pair of hands to do his master's bidding. But as the demonstrations continue, such a fix may not be enough to repair a bankrupt economy or a bankrupt political system. To those who think the age of autocracy is at hand, come to Sri Lanka and take another look. And of course, not just here. Look at Russia, look at China, look at Turkey, look at Ethiopia, look at Brazil. In all those countries, autocratic leaders are having a rather tough time at the moment. And the assumption that it is democracy that is besieged, that is on the back foot, is not always correct. And this small country, Sri Lanka, a nation of 22 million, proves that point. And on that note, on the note of the rule of law and accountability, just today in The Hague, an investigation began into the 44 journalists that have been killed in this country or have disappeared since 2004. Take note, Catherine.